Here's Chris Maher, host of FFM93 Live.
All right, what is up, everybody? Welcome to episode 11 of FFM93 Live. We are back. There's a lot to talk about today. I'm going to get right into it. I mean, there really is no delay with the news and the coverage that's been coming. Excuse me, from Flyers training camp. There's been a lot. There were some roster cuts today, some comments from Torts. Jordan Hall is joining the show, and we're going to get right into that into a second here. But the Flyers, starting out so far in the preseason, they are 1-2-0 in 3 games. They have 3 games left. Some good moments, some bad. Some players standing out more than others. I think there's I guess you could say a little bit of an overreaction with the preseason and kind of how things go. Obviously, everybody has their different opinion on this player playing in this spot and, all that different stuff. But again, there's always different stuff with the preseason on who plays where. But I want to get into the interview with Jordan first because we recorded that yesterday. And a lot of that stuff we talked about isn't really old news, but I just want to kind of get that not out of the way, but kind of have that interview kind of set up the rest of the show since there was a lot of news that came out today. So I'm going to play that now, and then we'll get straight into it. All right, what is up, everyone? Welcome back to the channel, and we are back on the show here with Jordan Hall from Nbc'S Sports Philadelphia. Jordan, great guy. Thanks for doing this, man. Always good talking with you. Thanks for coming on.
Chris, thanks so much for having me. Great to see you.
Yeah, man, you too. So the Flyers, right there, we're coming off a day off yesterday and a couple games. We've played 3 games so far. Flyers are 1-2. They've won 1 game. They've only scored 3. They've given up 5. I don't know if it's time to be counting numbers yet, but it's a preseason. I'll say that there's a lot of different things and mixes of guys that have played. Have you had any thoughts yet, or have you kind of just been trying to watch and see what's kind of been going on since there hasn't really been much of systems work yet?
Yeah, Chris, I'm a lot like John Tortorella right now, where I'm honestly just watching for specific players and seeing what they do from an effort standpoint or a skill standpoint. Because Tortorella, unlike probably other coaches I've covered, he implements system work a lot later in camp, and especially in year 1 with a new team. I think he's fully focused on looking for effort, looking for work ethic, seeing what guys stand out from that kind of standpoint, and which players are best conditioned, all that fun stuff. So, I'm expecting sloppiness. I'm not expecting chemistry because these guys have hardly been with each other and they don't really have a system in place. They've only gone over some video here and there. So I'm more so just looking for some guys that make plays, maybe stand out and show a flash. And you got some of that from, Wade Allison the other night where he makes a hard check and it creates a goal. I think that stuff stands out to the coaches. Morgan Frost looks far more confident than he was last preseason. So he's looking like an NHL player. So those are little things that, I want to keep my eye on early in camp.
No, for sure. I 100% agree with that. I think you nailed it. I think a lot of the guys have the guys you mentioned, Allison, Frost, they've played well. I've personally like Noah Cates. I think he's been very solid in the 2 games. One thing that has looked good, though, and I know it's a small sample size. It's only 3 games, and it's been different players each night, but it's been the penalty kill. They're 11 for 12. They gave up the 1 goal last night. Not as great and crisp as they were in the previous games, and obviously there's been a lot of penalties. But what have you kind of seen from the penalty kill, and has there been anything kind of different? Even though I know they haven't done systems, but it is. I feel like it still is a little bit noteworthy.
No, absolutely, because it has been an issue in years past. Wasn't as bad as the power play last year, but still, the PK has been an issue for the Flyers for the last 6-7 years, probably excluding the 1 year under Mike Yeo in 2019-20, where it was actually pretty good. So they need to get better on the PK, and so far it's been a nice little surprise here. Again, kind of a random assortment of players that maybe don't exactly know what Bradshaw wants to do yet on the PK, but I think they're going to blend some aggressiveness and also knowing when to sit back and be safer in coverage. I think that's Bradshaw's MO. I think he likes to be aggressive. And so far, I think you've seen players show effort on the PK, and that's really the biggest thing is That's what's going to catch coaches' eyes early on. Is PK tends to be mostly about effort. Are guys going to block shots? Are they going to pressure? Are they going to go all out? And I think you've seen players want to make an impression on these coaches, and a really good way to do that is PK. And Noah Cates is a guy you mentioned, Chris, who I think has looked great on the PK. It's a role he would play if he makes the Flyers. So that's been a nice early sign to see him go out there, kill penalties, not only kill penalties, but also make plays up ice while shorthanded. I thought he's been a nice surprise there. Not a surprise, but a nice glimpse of Noah Cates killing penalties.
No, for sure. I agree with that. Kind of going off just in the general sense of the team, do you have any expectations for this year, or are you kind of just waiting and letting it kind of play out?
Yeah, I think there's still a lot to be done from now until the start of the season. And of course, a lot to be done from the start of the season until, say, December, January. But my expectations aren't very high, Chris. I think it's very much a transitional season. I thought it was going to even be somewhat of a transitional season if Ryan Ellis and Sean Couturier were healthy. And right now, the statuses of both players are very much up in the air. Ryan Ellis very well might not play this season at all. And then Sean Couturier is dealing with an injury in an area that can be, kind of volatile and up and down, and good days, bad days. The back is kind of a tricky spot on the body. It's not like a broken bone where it's going to heal and it's going to be great at that 4-month deadline or 5-month deadline. It's a thing that can come and go. So I'm worried about the injuries, and I'm worried about the talent level. So I see it very much being a transitional year. I do think they can be more competitive. I do think they can be better than what they were last year, and I think John Tortorella will have a lot to do with that. But I very much think it's a season where they're going to figure out what they have, kind of weed out the guys that don't belong, find the guys that do, and then push forward. And I think people have to be patient, unfortunately. It's, a new coach like John Tortorella is not going to have a magic wand. He can make things better, but, he might not turn them into a Stanley Cup contender in year one. But he could create progress and have that kind of be a stepping stone into next season.
Oh, for sure. I love that. I think, again, I don't think Torts signed a 4-year deal to kind of have this as like a one-off and kind of just expect us to be, really good out of the gate. Kind of going off that, for the preseason coming up, there's 3 more games left, back to back this weekend. Hart is day to day, and there's been some other injuries as well. Atkinson, who was supposed to play last night but didn't, and Ratcliffe came in. Again, you still have that mix of still vets and some other guys. I'd expect these next couple games are probably going to be more of the combination of the JVR Frost connecting, kind of add into to the group on Wednesday night in the past game that they played. And obviously the Flyers made a couple cuts too, Antoine Roussel and Theodore Rochette. So only 2 guys get cut. Did you kind of expect more guys to get cut? And maybe, again, I don't know if you would agree with this, but for the next handful of games, are you expecting more of kind of a veteran-heavy lineup?
I do think that will be the case. And I did expect a larger round of cuts because I think the real way to kind of implement system work and really kind of hammer it down is by having a smaller group for practices and being really able to focus on a certain number of guys and not 50 to 60 guys. Because the fact is, a lot of these guys that are in camp aren't going to be here in the regular season, and they need to get down to a smaller number to kind of hammer down system stuff. And system stuff is really important because it's a totally new staff working with a new group of players. So, as much as they want to preach effort and skating and conditioning, they do need to get down to the systems, the nitty gritty of that stuff, and make sure these players understand it and are ready to go for October 13th. So I do think, the later the preseason games get, as we're halfway through here, they're going to start putting in more veteran lineups. They're going to start looking at combinations that they think could stick for October 13th and really kind of ramp up the evaluation period, because before you know it, October 13th will be here, and guys need to be familiar with what they're doing. Brad Shaw talked about how he got used to this style in Columbus when he coached with John Tortorella for 5 years. He said it's a little different, obviously, because the first half of camp and preseason is more just conditioning, skating, and not even really touching on systems. So it almost becomes a time crunch in the back half of camp. but it seems like he's used to it. Tortorella, I'm sure, is used to it and knows what he's doing. And it'll be up to the players to study and be ready to go for October 13th.
You've mentioned Shaw a couple times, and I love it because I know you had that tweet the other day about him, and I kind of piggybacked that a little bit. He's very vocal, and not saying that like AV or any of them guys weren't vocal either. And that was one of the things that when AV had actually came here, you noticed that from the hack stall to the AV kind of switch was how vocal he was. Torts is the same way. Shaw as well, as you see in the standard documentary that the Flyers have kind of been putting out. You see the clips of Shaw and the guys really getting on them. He's, honestly, I loved his comment on Provorov, and obviously he mentioned that pair didn't look great, and both of them kind of want the puck. And I kind of view that as when the Flyers got Matt Niskanen, and it was like, okay, now we have Niskanen, that means Provorov can kind of move the puck. Now I kind of look at that in the reverse way of we got Provorov. Now we have DeAngelo, so we can make Provorov kind of like not like Niskanen, but at least be in the sense of staying back and being that, defensive type of a defenseman, not as much offensive, than kind of let DeAngelo do the puck moving. Obviously not completely abandoning that from Provorov's game, but I think you get my point. Yeah. Is that something you would agree with? And obviously Shaw, I feel like is more of the more respected assistant coaches in the league defensively. Obviously he's had some pretty good numbers, and again the penalty kill too under him has been good. I think Atkinson actually at one point was tied for first or led the league in shorthanded goals for Columbus back when they had a really good penalty kill. So obviously that's kind of a mix. I know it's a loaded question, but what do you kind of dissect from that?
No, a very good question, Chris. Yeah, Cam Atkinson thrives with Brad Shaw from a shorthanded standpoint. He was up there in terms of shorthanded goals. I think when he got to the Flyers last year, over the previous 5 seasons, I think he was tied for the league lead in shorties. So he's had a lot of success with Brad Shaw, and Shaw did have one of the better PKs during that tenure in Columbus. I know one of the seasons he was tied for the league lead in PK percentage. So definitely a defensive PK-minded guy. John Tortorella has raved about him to me, and a guy that I think can really teach and help some of the Flyers' youth on defense, because the Flyers don't have a defenseman other than Justin Braun that's projected to be in their 3D pairs, 6 guys over 28. So everyone's 27 and younger, other than Justin Braun. So there's a lot of youth there, and probably guys that are still developing. And I think Brad Shaw should be a good guy for them. I am fascinated, Chris, to see how DeAngelo and Provorov gel here, because when Provorov did really well with Matt Niskanen, and when he clicked early with Ryan Ellis before obviously Ellis suffered the injury that has kept him out since then, you were looking at a younger guy in his 24, 23 range, and then a vet in the 30-year-old range. So you had a guy that was more established and older than Ivan Provorov, and probably knew a little bit better how to work with a younger guy like Provorov. Well, Tony DeAngelo's close to the same age. He's 26, Provorov 25. And I think Tony DeAngelo is still figuring out exactly what kind of defenseman he is in this league. So you have 2 guys that I think are still developing and growing. So, am I a little worried maybe about that? Sure, because again, Tony DeAngelo is not Matt Niskanen. He's not Ryan Ellis. I think those guys really knew how to work with Ivan Provorov from all their experience. DeAngelo is very much figuring out who he is, and I think Provorov is still trying to figure out where he stands with the Flyers and in the NHL. So I do think there could be some growing pains, but I think right now the Flyers believe those are the 2 guys that work best together. But it would not surprise me if they have to work around their pairs and see what works best.
No, for sure, I agree with that. Again, I don't think anybody's really expecting anything to kind of jump at the gate with this team. I think it's going to be kind of like you said, growing pains. Jordan, dude, thanks so much for doing this. I appreciate it. Always enjoy your work, and hopefully I'll be seeing you soon.
Chris, absolutely. Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Yep. All right. So again, thank you to Jordan for coming on. As always, I love talking to him. He's such a good dude, and he's helped me immensely. Oh, I gotta throw the banner back up here. All right, there we go. Yeah. So look, the preseason. There's been a lot of thoughts, a lot of comments on this. Isaiah's What's up, dude? Thanks for joining in, tuning. I appreciate it. Howard, thank you for joining in. Thank you, as always, for coming in. I appreciate it. Who does Jordan think the team's most improved player will be? So we recorded that yesterday. I will shoot him a text though, and I will ask him, just in case. And then next week, if you hop on, or maybe I'll shoot you a message and tell you who he said. But again, the preseason, right? The Flyers, they are 1-2-0 as of right now. A lot of roster cuts and stuff. So I guess we could kind of start with the call that I got here about the preseason, because there has been some things, and I want to tie that kind of into it too. So let's play that now.
Hello, Chris. We weren't able to see the first 3 preseason games. Are you concerned about the lack of scoring? We are. And please tell us what the shots looked like. I'm sure the young players were trying very hard, but it didn't seem to go in. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you, Bill and Judy, as always. I was very glad when I got that call this morning, because I hadn't heard from them for the first couple shows since we came back. But again, thank you as always, Bill and Judy, for calling in. Yeah, so look, the games were so-so. The Flyers, again, if you want to look at it by numbers, kind of like how I mentioned in the interview there with Jordan, they only scored 3 times and they gave up 5. So there's that. If you want to look at it that way, I personally don't. Again, it's kind of different because, look, I mean, the passing in general, when I say passing, I mean literally like from forward to forward, D to forward, D to D, that whole kind of thing. It's been very sloppy, and there hasn't been much like crispness with the passing, and at least the way that they have played overall. Look, again, they've had different units, they've had different players. The last game you had, again, last game's lineup, I'm going to pull that up right now just to kind of to reiterate some things on that, because again, you're going into a team that, okay, Hayes, that was his first game. Lawton, that was his first game. Provorov, D'Angelo, Sanheim, Ristolainen, they were all their first games. Most of the other guys have kind of split. Some guys have kind of been bounced around. A lot of guys sat on the bench. Guys like Allison sat for 17 minutes in the first game. So there's been a lot of different things, and because of that, Allison gets the 2, 5, and 10 on the fight. But there's different things and reasons why. I guess you could say that the guys haven't really been scoring. I don't really look at it as an issue. I mean, look, they've had 2 games where they haven't had good second periods. But I'm with Torts. He said today that he's not really trying to compare, I guess you could say, what last year's second periods were to, an exhibition game. And I agree with that. I think it's kind of hard to do that. It's just, the comparison of it, because it's there and we all went through it, I guess that's what everybody's there. Kylo Green, what's up, man? How you doing? I'm not mentally prepared for this season. Yeah, I feel like that's kind of a lot of us. Jason, what's up, man? Thank you for tuning in. Dr. Heath Health Nut, that's such a great name. It's Kate season. Which one though? Noah or Jackson? I gotta ask you that. Flyer Bob, what's up, man? Hey Chris, really disappointed with Ratcliffe, but happy with Sandstrom and Cates. Definitely, I've really enjoyed Noah Cates. I will talk about in a couple minutes of some other players that I've enjoyed too. But again, there's been a lot of different things from the preseason on, special teams, the power play, and look, as for the penalty kill, they are, as of right now, they're 11 for 12. They've given up 1. They gave up the goal last game to Strome on the power play, and that was really it. I mean, look, they're trying different things, and Shaw, and just kind of breaking it down by D pair. I guess we'll start there. The D pair, Dr. Heath Healthnut says Noah, of course, definitely. I knew. I was just joking with you. Again, Bradshaw has made a couple comments on Provorov, and also, he said that, he kind of wants Provorov to smile more. I think that can kind of help him around the rink. So that's definitely interesting. He's one of the more respected assistant coaches, defensive coaches in the league, and that's something that they've, I guess you could say, have tried to work on, is, again, still getting to know these guys. And again, obviously the Flyers made cuts, right? But, if you're looking at this by pairing, and you're looking at this by, I guess you could say, by defensive pairing, right? The Pro Rob D'Angelo pairing, they weren't great. And Torts literally just came out and said they stunk. And then he also said that he thought that they were tired. They were, and they kind of just went to a day off right after that. So they played Wednesday night, day off Thursday. They were really energetic today in practice, and he said that was a good sign to see. And that's because they've been putting in the work. And again, they had a lot of energy today, which is good. So again, I didn't really like the way that pairing played. I felt like that they kind of got hemmed in a little bit. Again, a lot of these guys are their first game. A lot of it is some guys kind of sitting on the bench. Took guys like Forster, right? I mean, the first game against Boston, Forster played, but the Flyers took a lot of penalties in the first period. They had 4 penalties in the first. Forster does not play the penalty kill, so that most likely is him sitting on the bench, and that's what happened. And he just couldn't really get into a rhythm. And it's kind of tough to do that. When you when you have players like this that don't really play penalty kill, don't really play power play. Another guy that Ian LaPerriere kind of mentioned was like Hayden Hodgson, very similar, doesn't really play penalty kill, doesn't play power play. So he's kind of sitting on the bench too. And it's tough, when you're doing that. And now Torts and these other guys and Shaw and Rocky Thompson, they were on the bench last game. They'll be on the bench again tomorrow. And then Torts and the full staff will be on the bench for the final 2 games. Against the Islanders, one on Sunday and then one on Tuesday night. So, look, I would like to think that the games coming up, there's going to be more of a veteran presence. I guess you could say I would probably, I guess the best way I would explain it is that it's probably a combination of both groups kind of just getting put together. It's tough because, again, the lines today, and again, I'm going to get this from your comments in a minute, but the lines today were OLXL with Hayes and Konechny, Van Riemsdyk with Lawton and Atkinson, Noah Cates with Jackson Cates and Tippett, Delorier with Legzinski and Allison. Frost was rotating in, and Farabee was also rotating in. Defense was Caudant and D'Angelo. Sanheimer's the line in. York and Braun, Zamula and Serial. Zamula and Zamula and Sealer. Oh my God, that's great. I'm going to be clipping that. Zamula and Sealer. Provorov was not on the ice because of a maintenance day. I cannot believe I just said cereal. That's so funny. Nick Delorier is terrible. Nick Delorier is not terrible. I don't agree with that at all. Jeffrey, really disappointed with the preseason. Watched most of the games on DirecTV. Torts needs to be behind the bench. Jeffrey, just give it some time. We've had guys playing in these games that were playing for the Reading Royals last year in the East Coast League. So give it some time. And again, that's nothing against those guys like Colin Felix, Adam Karashik. Like, it's nothing against them. It's just, that's how it is. He said, hey, if all the 200 question marks we have on this roster pan out, we're looking like a very okay team. That's very true. That's very true. We'll see. I mean, it's tough because, again, I've mentioned this before. They're banking on so much, and they're banking on all these different things working. Flyer Bob says, you can tell Torts is ready to get this team going. I love seeing that passion sorely missed. 100% agree. I think that's something that they definitely do need. Nick Delorier doesn't skate well. I don't agree with that. I think Delorier is a pretty good skater for what most people kind of think. I mean, I don't really see the skating as an issue. And that's the thing. The one thing that Delorier is actually known for is that he can skate. C-Max says, I still don't like the Flyers keeping 45 players after today's cuts. 2 groups. I know they want to look at Jackson Cates. I can't read today. Jackson Cates and players like that, but I don't know what they can expect from guys like him versus NHL talent. I mean, Jackson Cates isn't going to be playing anything higher than your 4th line. So, and he's probably not going to be making the team. So, and I would honestly, I would argue that line today of the 4th line at Delorier with Legzinski and Allison is most likely your 4th line to start the year. Ryan, what's up, brother? How you doing? Always good to see you. Yeah, we're just again talking about cuts and all that stuff. But let's get into those cuts because there was a lot today. The Flyers had 20 cuts, 18 in general. They reduced it by 20, but 18 guys sent down. 2 players have to go through waivers, and I'll talk about that in a minute because it's tough. And I'll talk about Ratcliffe. I know everybody's bringing him up now in the chat here, but the Philadelphia Flyers announced today that the club reduced training camp by 20 players. According to President of Hockey Operations and General Manager Chuck Fletcher, the Flyers have assigned the following players to Lehigh Valley of the AHL, American Hockey League. So, forwards, Jordy Bellerive, Elliot Desnoyers, Jacob Gaucher, Charlie Gerard, Alex Kyle, Ty McSorley, Cal O'Reilly, Garrett Wilson, Zaid Wisdom, Colin Felix, Linus Hochberg, Will McKinnon, Mason Millman, Wyatt Wiley, Cooper Zek, and goaltenders Jonathan Lemieux, Nolan Maher, and Tyler Wall all were sent down to Lehigh Valley. And then Philadelphia placed forwards Isaac Ratcliffe and Linus Sandin on waivers. Both those guys were placed on waivers for the purpose of assigning them to Lehigh Valley. So the updated roster for the Flyers in camp, this is in numerical order. You have Travis Sanheim, Kevin Connaughton, Ivan Provorov, Travis Konechny, Kevin Hayes, Sean Couturier, Artem Anisimov, Zach McEwen, Cooper Marity, Scott Lawton, Adam Brooks, Nick Seeler, James Van Riemsdyk, Tony Grosnick, Felix Sandstrom, Samuel Urson, Pat Nagel, Louis Balpedio, Patrick Brown, Hayden Hodgson, Nick Delorier, Cam York, Bobby Brink, Ronnie Adder, Morgan Frost, Noah Cates, Adam Getting, almost there. Ryan Fitzgerald, Tyson Forster, Igor Zamula, Rasmus Ristolainen, Wade Allison, Tanner Lexinski, Jackson Cates, Justin Braun, Ole Lexell, Max Woolman, Owen Tippett, Tony D'Angelo, Carter Hart, John Randall Avon, Joel Farabee, Cam Atkinson, Ryan Ellis, and Adam Karashek. So they have done a good amount of cuts here. As for the 18 guys that they sent down that I mentioned, I'm really fine with most of that. Ratcliffe, again, I hate Ratcliffe going down because he got to go through waivers. I'm not ready to give up on Ratcliffe. It reminds me of like Nicholas Aube-Kubel again, when you put Aube-Kubel on waivers and you lost him for nothing. And it's so tough with waivers, and it's not just Ratcliffe too, because they Sandin as well, who is not bad in the AHL, and again, it's another guy in a pinch. If you have to call him up, you can. So again, I don't like it at all, and there were some other injury updates today as well. Let me pull this up here as well, because some guys were cleared today for contact. Some guys still are kind of working on that same kind of thing. So the Flyers, here it is. Okay, yeah. The following injured players have not been cleared to participate in camp. So these guys are not cleared yet. Anisimov, Brink, Brown, Couturier, Ellis, and Karashek. Karashek is upper body day-to-day. Anisimov is lower body from that block shot. Bobby Brink's still dealing with the hip. Brown, the back surgery. Coots is that same kind of thing, the back. Ryan Ellis out indefinitely. And then forward, Cooper Marity, Cam Atkinson. Cooper Marity is week to week with an upper body injury, so he's not clear to participate. Atkinson, John Randall Avon, Joel Farabee, Ryan Fitzgerald, and Carter Hart have been cleared for no contact practice. As for Hart, he was taking shots today, so that is definitely a good thing to see. And again, he's kind of said that he wants to maybe get into a game, but the main focus for Hart is just to make sure he's healthy for right now. Flyer Bob said, I can see us in a lot of close games, and that's what makes us not getting a draw painful. It's true. It's kind of tough though, because the whole thing with getting a draw was they don't think they're at that spot, and I can see it. I think it would have helped in many other areas, from obviously tickets and getting people there. I mean, you see how many people are at the Blue Jackets and their training facility and watching their games and all that different stuff. So obviously there's more of a buzz with that. Philly Ghost says this team's going to be very hard to watch because all I see is low-scoring, grinding them out type of games all season long. If they're last year, I suppose it's an upgrade. It is because they'll probably be more competitive, and that's the hope, is that they'll be a better team to watch, and also I guess the hope is more of, you want them to just be more competitive. I mean, you don't want to constantly see them just not playing the way that they should, and unfortunately that was kind of what was happening for majority last year. Again, I'm not trying to overreact it. I think that's kind of the basis of my episode here, and what my thoughts are as of this week. I'm not really trying to overreact. I mean, it's kind of tough with everything that's been going on, because it's tough because everybody wants it to be right now, and everybody wants everything to just kind of change. But Torts did mention today that he hasn't even really thought about a captain yet, and I'm curious what everybody thinks. So I'm going to put something in the chat here. There we go. We'll put that in there now, and I want to add this right in here now. I want to take this one away. We're going to throw this one in. Little question here on the show, because again, Courts, I can't talk today. This is bad. Torts said today that he hasn't thought about a captain yet, and at the start of the season they're not going to be naming one. So that seems like the message right now is no captain. I'm going to give everybody a couple seconds. Who do you think? I have it up on the screen here for people listening on audio, but who do you think should be captain and why? And that is my question here for today. Who do you think should be the Flyers captain and why? Obviously, they're not going to be naming one, but if they were to later on in the year, who would it be? And when I say they're not naming one, they're not naming one right now. Obviously, it's different because you're kind of again, you're kind of waiting for that kind of spark in the way that the team can kind of play. And I do think it has to be a vet. I will say that. But just curious what everybody else is kind of thinking too, because you have such a different vibe this year. I mean, there's so many different things with the team, and again, you're trying to get better, not just on the offensive side of things, but even more defensively in front of your own goaltender, the systems, all that stuff. And they haven't even really worked on systems yet. So that's another reason why I'm not really trying to overreact, is they haven't done much systems work. I mean, a lot of it is later in camp, and the good thing is Shaw, who is comfortable with that. He's, it seems like they're taking their time with that, and it's not as much of a rush. And I don't think they're going to be really scrambling to kind of get the, I guess you could say, not really scrambling to kind of get everything together systems wise. I think it's going to be more of, they're going to take their time. They're going to see what players they have, what players mix with that, and then go from there. And again, I think a lot of those cuts today were good. Again, I'm not ready to give up on Ratcliffe. He's another guy that, again, he's obviously dealt with some injury issues. He's had some decent numbers in Lehigh Valley. I mean, look, he didn't really. It's kind of hard to. It's kind of hard for me to really say that like he stood out or anything like that, because he really didn't. But it's kind of hard to when you're playing with Jordy Bell or even Max Wallman. And that's nothing against those guys, just you're playing limited minutes. You're not really playing the offensive style. We saw Ratcliffe last year play 10 games. He had 4 points with a goal. He's had some decent numbers in Lehigh Valley, but he's dealt with injury, and I still think he can get back to that player he was in junior in the OHL. And he's just such a big like forward that they can use him in the size, and I don't really want to lose him. Again, very similar to Albie Coupel, where it's like, if this were later in the year and the Flyers would have had to call him up, say they didn't do the waivers now, but I would have rather him made the team, and know he wants to be here, he wants to be in Philly. He said that the other day. It's not like he doesn't want to kind of be here, but kind of going back to the captain question, we got a lot of comments on that one, so let's pull those up now. Let's start. Let's see. JVR says Owen Tippett can be a captain. Scott Lawton, Hayes from Flyer Bob, Solomon Fox says play out this season without a captain. After that, I have to go with Lawton. Okay, that's fair. Atkinson for captain. Got another one for Hayes. Another Kevin Hayes here. Let's see. EJWSKI says Lawton's the hardest work on the ice. I can understand why people say that. Lawton, Hayes, or Atkinson, that's fair as well. Again, so a lot of this is pretty similar. How about Braun as a captain for 1 year? I don't know. We'll see. I think it's going to be an interesting choice. But again, I think and what I like about that too is it's all different, right? It's not just like it's one guy. It could be anybody, and I think that kind of shows that the leadership that they have. And I don't think it's and look, it's not like the whole accountability thing and the locker room and all of that stuff. It's I don't look at it as an issue in the sense of these guys don't like each other. I think I look at it in the sense of just like, it's just like calling each other out and being okay with that. And look, I'm not in the locker room. Okay. I'm not like in there all the time to say like, oh, this guy does this and that is that. And I'm not like that anyway. Most of you guys who know me and watch my stuff, I don't do that. So that's different. But I also think it's, I think part of it is just, we haven't been able to kind of have that guy that's really been able to really be that type of leader where it's like, I guess you could say more of the calling them out. And I'm not like saying like it's not a Giroux thing, and I'm not looking at anything as like, oh, well, it's Giroux's fault. I think my point is like with this roster now is you don't really have that kind of guy that's like, hey, you need to step it up here, you know what I mean, that kind of thing. And I think they're just trying to find that right now. Kylo Green says, yeah, I just keep some A's, but not the C. Team doesn't really deserve one right now, haha. Well, look, I think it's important to have a captain. I think waiting to get one is fine, because when you wait to get one, you're also kind of in that same boat where it's like, all right, let's kind of figure out who we have here. And again, this is a huge internal year for the team. You have to keep that in mind. So they're trying to have everything be worked out and I guess you could say fixed internally before they kind of make that big change. And obviously Couturier is injured. So he's a huge candidate for that spot. So we could see what happens there. But again, I think towards saying it now and saying that he hasn't even thought about it is a good thing, because when you're looking at this team, and you're looking at just the way that everything kind of needs to be fixed, right? It's tough. Flyer Bob says, going to be an interesting year, Chris. Looking forward to going through it with you, buddy. You're my therapy in these tough times. Well, look, I love that you're able to come in here, Flyer Bob. And again, always thank you so much. And we'll see what happens this year. It'll be fun. C-Max says, I went in Couturier. He's the best player, and he's been asked of in his first 10 years. Almost criminal due to lack of talent. Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, look, I don't think the Flyers have a huge lack of talent. I think it's just more of the high-end type of guys. EJWSKI says Lawton captain, Cam Atkinson gets the A, and Braun with the assistant as well. That's fair.
I don't know if they would do Braun. I think it's interesting that people are saying that though, because he is older, and Jordan also mentioned in the interview that we did, he's one of the only guys that's over 28, and he's the only guy on the defensive side of things. So that's different. We got 20 people in here, so really glad about that. Always good to be getting. We've been getting more people each week. Last week we were around like 15 or so. Now we're getting 20. So glad to see that. Thank you to everybody coming in here as well. See, Max says, I would name Braun manager of Wendy's. I don't really get the joke, but it's funny. Yeah, I mean, look, again, I think more of the captain is, again, trying to find the right guy in this, but I want to kind of go off that a little bit. I want to talk about a couple guys that have stood out to me. Wade Allison, I think, has looked really efficient. I think he's had a really solid preseason so far. I mean, look, he's only played 2 games. And again, I'm gonna throw another question in here since the last one kind of went pretty well. Again, Allison I've really liked Allison. He's been really solid. I've really liked just the way that he's played in general. So again, I put up on the screen here who's a player that stood out to you so far. Again, the Flyers, they've only played 3 games, and things like that. But again, there's still enough there to kind of take some things out of it. And Allison is a guy that, for me personally, I really like, because he has that like kind of crash and bang style. He said he's trying to, I guess you could say, turn away from that. Not turn away from that, because that's the way he plays the game, but at least trying to maybe dumb it down a little bit so that he doesn't get those like high increased chances of maybe getting hurt again. And I've really liked this play. He's had some good plays. He was arguably the most efficient forward in the last game against Washington. He had a lot of good chances around the net. He was a big reason, probably the biggest reason, outside of the pass that Tippett made on the goal from Hayes the other night. He just takes the Capital player into the wall. Tippett comes in with the sweet disguise on the pass and finds Hayes for the slam dunk. Hayes will probably get that 9 times out of 10 if you gave him that shot. So it was a beautifully executed play. A couple players that stood out to some people in the chat here. Ryan Begler says Urson. That's fair. I think Urson's been really good. I've actually really liked both goaltenders so far. I think Sandstrom has played some really good hockey. Urson from even the rookie game, Urson I think has been good. And there's been a lot of different things with how he's kind of played in these past handful of weeks. And just his game in general has gotten better. Solomon Fox says Allison and Noah Cates. Cates has stood out to me since the end of last season. Definitely fair. Love that. He's been good. I really like Noah Cates. I think, and it's not even just like the offensive side of things. It's the defensive side. Obviously, he's good in that area too. But again, he's been good. He's been really good for majority of these games, and I've really enjoyed just the way that just the way that some guys are battling. Again, I've liked Noah Cates. I think Allison's been good. Owie Lixel, who is still on the roster, and that's honestly a surprise to me. I like the way that he battles. He battles hard in camp. You can see that. Again, he's smaller. I thought in the first game against Boston, he kind of got overmatched a little bit. Again, he played last game, didn't really notice him that much. I didn't really notice many of the other forwards. I thought Hayes had a pretty solid game last game for it being his first. The power play had some decent looks in the last game as well, and Hayes had a pretty nice play where he just kind of got in the zone on a pretty good entry. And the night before in Buffalo, the power play wasn't good, so there are different things there. But again, look, I think people might disagree with me on this, but I thought Tony DeAngelo stood out in the sense of quickly moving the puck up the ice. I think that's been an area that the Flyers have, obviously it's been an issue, and bringing in Tony was part of that. They needed a guy who could just bam, quick play up the ice, and I love that. I thought he did that a lot. Obviously, there's the pairing in general wasn't good, and I said that too. But just for the fact that D'Angelo was able to quickly find the target and get it up there quick, whether the pass connected or not, I enjoyed that, and I think again it was their first game, so I'm not I'm not going to be too hard on them in general. Flyer Bob says Cam York looks good. Definitely agree with that. Chris, I want to just address your honest thoughts of Wade Allison playing the fourth line. To me, it's completely wasting his talent. I don't think Allison should play the fourth line. It's just realistically, I don't know where else he'll be for right now. I agree. I completely agree with you. I think it is wasting his talent. Again, a guy like Allison can't really get that many minutes. With the injuries to Farabee and Couturier, it's going to open up some more ice time. I think Allison could probably, he definitely could play third or even second line if you wanted him to, and you could maybe switch some things around. Obviously, with Farabee being out on the wing, that opens up another spot. So we'll see. I don't think it's again, I don't want Allison playing the fourth line either. I agree with you. It's just right now I don't really know where else you could put him. Last game he played third line with Lixell and Lawton, and that could be the case. But again, when the Flyers are fully healthy, you're going to have some more guys in there, and some guys might get bumped down. Today at practice, where's the tweet that I had up? I had, let me find that again real quick from the lines today. I don't know where it went on my computer, but pulling it up now. We're getting there. But again, I like Allison realistically anywhere. I mean, today he was listed as the fourth line with Delorier and Legzinski, so that could be the case too. I don't know if again, I think Allison will get power play time too, so that'll bump up his ice time. I think to start the year, I think he should be in the bumper on the power play right in the middle of the slot. I think that's perfect for him. I didn't really like him 2 seasons ago at the front of that end on the power play. That wasn't really the area where I thought he should have been playing. I honestly thought it should have been bumper because he has the shot, and I think, we haven't been able to really see that much from him because he's kind of had that muck and grind kind of style to kind of play throughout the game and things like that. But again, I just say that because it's like a filler spot right now. I don't genuinely think that he should be there. It's just when fully healthy. And again, if Wade is fully healthy, then I think he can definitely be higher. Just I didn't really know essentially where he was going to be with the injury at that said point when I had made that original lineup. So that's kind of where I was at. I like Allison a lot, and I think he should play probably much higher. If you can play third line, that's fine with me. If you can play second line, that's fine. They could shock us and have, again, a lot of this stuff is just an educated guess anyway. So a lot of this is going to be probably completely way off from what I'm telling you, or at least what my thoughts are. I think some guys are set in stone, but I don't even think that because Torts has kind of said too, like he hasn't really put anybody in a designated area. I mean, he said he doesn't have Hayes slotted as a 1C, he doesn't have Couturier as a 1C. He hasn't done any of that yet. He's still trying to figure out who these guys are as humans. So we'll see how that kind of plays out too. But I 100% agree with you. I do think it is wasting his talent as well because again, it's tough. Do you see Sam Ersson making the roster? I don't for right now. I think he's probably going to be on the Phantoms to start the year. We got 25 people in here. Again, thank you everybody for tuning in. Really do appreciate it. Always good to have everybody in here at one time. EJWSKI says, worst case, fourth line scores more goals. We will create better fourth line and play. Yeah, that's true. I think he definitely can be. I think he can play more minutes than what everybody's kind of expecting. I don't really see it as he has to play this line or has to play that line. I think it's just sometimes when you're trying to ease guys into it and stuff like that, they're trying to see different fits throughout really all of camp. see. Philly Ghost is tomorrow's October 1st, and for me, October has always been the unofficial kickoff to get into the hockey mode. Let's go Flyers. 100%, dude. I'm really excited for this year. I mean, there's a lot of things with this team and how differently they have to play. So we'll see. I think it's going to be interesting. Sorry, taking a drink of water. I've been talking for 50 straight minutes. Yeah, again, I really like Frost too. He's been good. I've really enjoyed his play. There's been a lot of good things that I've liked it. It's not just the I guess you could say it's not even just the offensive side of things. It's not really the defensive side of things. I think it's just in general, he's played really solid in really all areas. If I'm being honest with you, I thought he had some good moments with connecting. I think they showed some chemistry together. I thought defensively, I think he's gotten more reliable in that area. So overall, I think it's been good for Frost. And again, he's played well in realistically all zones of the game so far. Again, it's only 2 games. There's only so much you can take into it. But again, I have personally really enjoyed his play so far. Solomon Fox's love Philly Ghost attitude. I agree. I think it's great. I think we need some positivity. I mean, and again, you guys know I try to be more positive. I'm trying to go through this season with a level head, and not as much a more positive side or a more negative side of things. I'm trying to leave emotion out of it, and it's very tough. You know what? This is really bothering me, and I have to say, there's a bird that's chirping, and it's, I don't even know if you can hear it, but I'm continuously hearing it, and it just keeps, like, every couple seconds it's, making the noises that bird makes, and it's just very frustrating and really throwing me off. But again, going back to what I was saying, I agree. I think we need some of more of that level-headed type attitudes going into this year. Chris, do you see the Flyers making the playoffs this year? I don't have an answer for you right now. I really don't. They've only played three preseason games. There's only been a handful of things that have happened. I don't have any. I have no predictions for you for anything this year. I really don't, and it's probably best. I mean, all predictions are realistically an educated guess, and it's like, all right, well, let's see what happens. And the last handful of years, especially the last 2, I thought the Flyers would be a pretty good team. So that's what it is. And, I'm not going to do that anymore because I felt like an idiot then when I was completely wrong. So my mom chiming in here saying, haha, with the bird emoji. Yeah, it's very annoying. It's because I have the window open, and if I don't, it's hot in here. So I'm kind of stuck. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. He says, so right, his personality, defense, offense, so much better. The future leader could be second line center. Are you talking about Frost? Because if so, I agree. I think he's definitely got, and that's why I asked him at camp, like, about his shot, because he's a guy that you can put, that's like, okay, obviously it's a huge year for him. And I asked that with Ian LaPerriere. He said he's gotten thicker. That's obviously something that's great. We've seen guys come in pretty good shape. Zamula gaining the weight, Wyatt Wiley, Frost as well. So, and again, it's not even like, and not just those guys, that's just what we were told, but also, the guys have been here since early September, late August. So that's great. And again, I love seeing Frost get quicker. He said the 2 areas at exit day he wanted to get better in were moving his feet and his shot. And I think in moving his feet, in the 2 games that I've seen him, I think he's been really good in that area. Moving his feet, getting involved, engaged. And that's what I've seen from him. He's been very engaged in the different areas, whether it was defensively, in the neutral zone, offensively. He's had some good plays. He's had some not so good plays. It hasn't been all positive. But again, excuse me, he's been good. It's been really, really good for Frost, and just the in general of how he's played in those 2 games. I mean, everything I feel like has been good. C-Max's guys hit that leg bell, helps algorithm to find the show. I thank you so much. I appreciate that. Seriously. I didn't know that, so thank you. That really does mean a lot to me. EJWSKI says this year I'm looking for hard work, teamwork, and consistency for next year playoffs. That's fair. I mean, look, all I'm looking for this year is improvement. I'm not looking for this guy. Well, obviously, you want to look for certain players to play better. And I think having a guy like Frost have a good season, Noah Cates, Cam York, right? I mean, you can have different guys have good years, and not all of them are going to have a good year at one time. That's pretty hard to do. So we'll see what happens in that area. But for me, it's Frost, and I actually put up a channel poll a couple weeks ago. Let me see. Here it is. I put this up in August, and I put who will have the biggest breakout season in 22-23, and it got 95 votes. And Owen Tippett was actually the number one candidate at 38%. Cam York was second with 29. Morgan Frost was third with 18, and Noah Cates was 14%. And then I actually had a funny typo on that. I had Can York, not Cam, and I just kept it because it was funny. So that was my mistake, and I don't proofread. But again, a lot of people had Tippett, and I was one of the 18%. I didn't vote on it, but I am part of that 18% that thinks it's going to be Frost. So we'll see. I think it's going to be a good year all around for this entire team. In the sense of playing better. I don't know if good year means winning. I think it's just more of them playing, and I'm hoping that it can be better. Oh, sorry, I just hit my mic. But again, it's it's huge. I mean, I think just them getting back to the right way of playing is the main thing for this year. So again, we got the weekend games this week. I would assume the lines today in practice, which I will read again to anybody who missed at the beginning. We have Lixell with Hayes and Konechny, Van Riemsdyk with Lawton and Atkinson, Noah Cates with Jackson, Cates and Tippett, Delorier with Lagzinski and Allison, and the Frost was rotating in. Farabee was also rotating in on those. Connaughton and D'Angelo, Sanheim and Ristolainen, York and Bronze, Mula and Sealer, not Serial, like I said earlier, like just a total idiot. And Provorov, who had a maintenance day. I still can't believe I called Nick Sealer Nick Serial. That's actually so funny. But again, that's probably most likely what the lines are going to be for this weekend. So the Flyers are tomorrow against the Boston Bruins. Quick thing, we are still on the road to 2,000 subscribers, so I just wanted to throw that out there again. We've been doing pretty good in that area recently, so again, I really do appreciate all the support. Having 25 people in here today was great, and again, I love the conversation from everybody. Thank you to everyone that was on here: Philly Ghost, Ryan, EJW, CMAC, Jeffrey, Solomon, JVR, everybody. Always really do appreciate Flyer Bob, everybody. And if I miss one, I apologize. There's so many comments. Again, I really do appreciate it. Again, it's huge. And also the Flyers fan club, as you see the little logo here on the bottom, I believe that I think that's the left hand on your side when I'm looking at it. It might be the other way around. But anyway, Flyers fan club is doing, we have our first meeting of the year is October 5th at Harris Casino in Chester. And that is going to have Zach McEwen, current Flyer Zach McEwen's going to be there. He was the Gene Hart Memorial winner. For those who don't know, the members and people of the Flyers fan club kind of vote on who wins the Gene Hart every year. That's kind of the one thing that the fan club does. I am a part of that. I do write the newsletter for the club that'll be coming out soon towards opening day, so stay tuned for that as well. I'll be tweeting that. But yeah, if you want to go to that meeting, and if you're in the Chester area and you want to come out, it's for registered members only, so you'd have to sign up at the door. So you can either bring cash or a check, whatever. Again, but just make sure that's known before you come in. And yeah, the fan club meetings are a great time. There's a lot of good people in them. So please, if you're interested, you can either DM me for more info, whether on Instagram, Twitter, whatever, or yeah, just hopefully we'll see you there on the 5th. But again, that's all I got from today. Really good show today. Thank you guys, everybody, for tuning in. Like I mentioned, again, we're still getting up there in the subscribers, and also if anybody wants to go to any games coming up, I got the SeatGeek logo in the bottom corner there as well. You can use code FlyersFanMania in all capital letters for $20 off your order of $50 or more. So yeah, again, thank you guys all so much for today, and I will talk to you all again next week.